Welcome, adventurers! My name is Cody, and this is Taking 20, a channel about all things role-playing games. I want to talk about a problem that I think a lot of us dungeon masters and game masters run into during the creation process when we are writing our adventures and our storylines and our campaigns and we're building our worlds. And it really has a lot to do with our approach and what is our responsibility during this process. So I hope you guys are ready. Let's get started. I think a lot of dungeon masters and game masters, including myself, can tend to fall into this pit, this trap, if you will, during this creation process. And it has to do with our desire to create these amazing storylines for our players. And this is a great way to railroad your players. Your job is not to write a story. You're not a novelist. Your job is simply to present conflict to your players. Now, I know that there's a lot of other nuances that go into the actual game, but I'm specifically talking about this brainstorming process, this creation process. What happens is a lot of us tend to come up with a problem and kind of think about where the players will go next and what we can do further with the storyline. And this is the big problem. Instead of trying to create conflicts that will lead your players to certain solutions that you can foresee, and thus getting them to the next plot point in your amazing story, you should be creating conflicts that are completely unrelated to the resolutions of the other conflicts. Let me give you guys an example of how a DM or GM might come up with a great conflict and then try to predict how the players will solve it. So the players are brand new to a town, and upon their arrival they're approached by the local captain of the watch. He recognizes them as adventurers and asks them for help in stopping a local gang. Now, as a dungeon master, you might consider a few different ways that your players might solve it. You might even think, well, my players will probably head to the local tavern where they can round up some information about the gang. And that'll lead to this great fight because the gang will find out about it, and that will lead, and then that will lead, and then that will lead. This is the problem. This is exactly how dungeon masters and game masters end up railroading their players. But if instead of trying to guess how our players are going to solve this problem so that we can lead into the next story plot of our awesome story we're telling, if instead we let it kind of develop naturally and just simply stop and present the players with a conflict, letting them resolve it however they want, that'll let our story flow much more naturally. Perhaps the players do want to go to a local tavern looking for information about the gang, but they may also come up with completely different solutions. Maybe they decide to reach out to a rich local merchant and spread rumors around town about a very expensive shipment that's coming in. They wait in a crate inside his shop and try to catch the gang red-handed. Or maybe they decide that the opium den is a better place to look for the gang. Or maybe the players decide to reach out to a local wizard and ask him to raise dead on the gang's latest victim and try to get information that way. Or maybe they even decide that this is a side quest and that their main objective for coming into town is far more important, and they decide to not help the captain at all. The point is all of these are completely great solutions to this conflict. Now, as a dungeon master, that doesn't mean that we can just throw things at our players until they find something they like. You can take these conflicts, and depending on how your players approach them, those solutions can in turn create further conflicts. The world continues to turn. There are conflicts literally everywhere, from the smallest personal conflicts, maybe an inter-family struggle for power, all the way to grand marching armies of undead conflicts to be solved. The point is that we can create these conflicts and make sure that the resolutions, the solutions, don't have to be a certain way to lead to our next great story point. Our jobs as dungeon masters and game masters is not to write stories. Dungeons and Dragons is a collaborative game. You are simply presenting your players with conflicts and letting them solve them and tell their own stories. And I really think a lot of this comes from seeing these big campaign books that Wizards is putting out and these big adventure paths that Pathfinder has done. Edge of the Empire has these big campaigns that you can follow. And I think that a lot of DMs get into this trap of this big story, this grand story that they have to tell, when in fact, you don't have to tell a story at all. The story is not really yours to tell, it's your players. And if you don't think that the way you're approaching this is having a negative effect on your game, that you are actually railroading your players, then by all means, please continue on. This is only really my opinion. However, if you feel like, man, maybe the last few games have kind of forced the players a little bit, then I would definitely recommend that you guys try to approach it a little differently, that you're not writing a full story. Which brings us to our very, very first GM Challenge.
GM Challenge!
So for this week's GM Challenge, I would challenge you guys to really consider how you guys are going about this creation process. Do your very best this week to come up with the conflict and then kind of let go, if you will. Don't even consider how your players might solve this problem. Totally leave it up to them. And then when your players come up with a solution, try to do your very best to say yes and let them be a little creative with their approach. But be sure to come back and let me know how it went. Let me know if it added to your game and if it was a great experience or if it completely wrecked it. If this is your first time here and you love role-playing games as much as I do, I'd love to have you subscribe. I'll be putting out new videos every week on a range of topics like DM tips, player tips, Roll20 tutorials, and more. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, just hit that subscribe button down below and come join us. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Cody, and may your games be filled with awesome memories and even better friends. I'll catch you guys next time. 1, 2, 3. You gotta say it.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe.
Okay, buddy. All right, kiddo. I love you.